guys. How are you? How is everybody? Great. Wow, you guys, Saturday nights are tough in New York. It's a crazy place here. Everybody's standing in line and freezing to death. These girls in skimpy clothes out in front of clubs and things. And, oh boy, I felt like Snooki on Jersey Shore last night. It was just, it was a crazy, crazy day. Crazy, crazy time. All right, welcome to the Strange Universe panel. The reason we put these panels together, let me move aside or move back a little bit here so you can see everybody, so that you can see everybody on the panel. Once again, the reason we put these together is because I just wanted you guys to have a chance to see some of the best and the brightest people in metaphysics and New Age thought and philosophy and theosophy and all the other all the other fantastic fields. Again, the brain power of these panels could light a relatively large city most of the time because of the body of work that these people have done and the fantastic things that they've accomplished. And you folks are the elect. You folks are the ones that are on the cutting edge of all of this, and these are the fantastic leaders of a movement that is growing stronger. And how many people just in the last 6 months have had, just since the beginning of the year, the beginning of this second decade of the 21st century, have had people come up to you saying, I thought you were kind of crazy before, and why don't you tell me what's going on now? And how many people have had friends make this face? How many people have been at this show where a lot of people have been, because I've had the experience, and I'm sure these fantastic speakers have as well, of people who have just who've said to you, how do you live your life every day knowing what you know? Has anybody had that experience recently? Because that's been happening quite a bit to us. Do you notice that people are, I think it's interesting that people are not only waking up, but I think people are kind of waking up mad. Have you noticed that as well? And you notice, and you notice, in my opinion, in my opinion, there's kind of, on the one hand, there's less humans on the planet, but on the other hand, there's far more angels in the aspect of all of you folks. So the fantastic thing about this panel is that we call it the Strange Universe panel because it's basically anything goes. It's a way to take people that I like and that I respect and I think are worthy of your attention, and gives you a forum to be able to ask questions in sort of a free-for-all kind of style, to be able to maybe get exposure to people that you may not have seen before, and then when you see them on the panel, you go to their workshops and support them. And again, let me once again say that Mark Becker has been doing these shows now for 20 years. Did you guys realize that he started these in 1990? So this is the 20th year of the NEWLIFE Expo here at the New York Hotel. This is my 18th year. I've been doing this since 1992. Can you imagine that? And I'm only 24 years old. Isn't that great? Since I was 12. Really, because I'm taking all the health supplements out there, I'm really 86. So don't I look great? The secret to long life and impressing people is you always tell them you're older than you are. So when people ask me how old I am, I say I'm 61, and they go, "Wow, you look great," and they go, "No, I'm really 50," and they go, "Oh, I'm so sorry." You look like crap for 50. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually let some of the speakers speak for themselves. I'm going to let them give you in their own words instead of usually what I do is I go down the line of people and I do sort of a rock and roll introduction for these folks. Do we have enough mics for everybody? Are we all good?
We have 2 mics that we'll share.
Okay, all right. And if you guys want to, okay, all right. And so let me just do this because these people have so much to say, and we have a little bit more limited time here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow these people to speak for themselves, and I'm going to allow them to stand up and give you a little bit of an introduction. It's kind of a metaphysical panel speed dating sort of thing. So it's give them a chance to impress you with the glory of their mind. So if I can actually start at the put my glasses on here. If I can actually start at the end here. If you want to pass I'll let Reverend James sort of wrap this up. And if you want to stand up, just tell people a little bit about yourself and who you are and your booth number, and then we'll pump your talk and your. Sure. So take it away, Wendy.
Good morning. My name is Wendy Kennedy.
There we go.
And I channel the Pleiadian Collective. And I've been channeling for the last 16 years. 14 of those I've been working with the Pleiadians. I actually work with a lot of different beings and bring through a lot of galactic information about the game we're playing, understanding the shift, and a kind of bigger picture information. Today I'm doing a workshop at 3 p.m. and that'll be in the Village Room. And that'll be on what to expect over the next several years and what we can do at a personal level to facilitate this change in this process, just to make things a bit easier. So it's kind of the perspective that I bring.
And actually, Wendy, just while you're up and you're speaking, the topic of today's panel, yesterday's panel was, what did they not want you to know? And we never figured out who they were. I think we figured out that they was really us on a bad day. So this is about modern. This panel is about ancient predictions and modern prophecies. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, I think I want to expand on what you said yesterday as far as who they are. We are they.
Correct.
And that we want to make it this outside thing, these other beings, but we have been those beings. We are those beings. They're not the enemy. They are other aspects of ourselves. So this game is about integration. It's not about swinging all the way to the light. It's not about swinging to the dark. It's about integrating the two and seeing that they are both part of divine energy. You can't exclude one or the other. It's about integrating and letting go of your judgment that the dark is wrong or that the light is wrong. They're both divine. And this is a really unique game down here that we're playing in the third dimension. We have the opportunity to look at things from a linear perspective, and in all the dimensions above the third, you see multiple perspectives all at once. You realize that you are part of the whole. Down here, we get to think that we're separate, that we're unique, that we're disconnected, that we only have one version of reality going on at a time. We're actually moving back and forth between different versions of reality constantly. We just think that we're on one string. So we are actually these beings who are playing the dark roles, and we're learning how to integrate. We are helping those versions of us who can't quite figure out how to let go of the anger, of the judgment. We're teaching them, as we're doing it ourselves, how to integrate, and we're sending that information off to them. We're sending them the how-to book on how it's done. And then they're taking that information, and they can apply it if they want, or they can continue playing their game. And that's really what this whole transition is about. It was a game of descension and reascension. We're not starting at the bottom. We're already divine source energy. Higher isn't better. It's just different. It's just a different game. So we're them.
Wendy Kennedy, ladies and gentlemen. The workshop is today it's Sunday at 3 p.m., so it's today in the Village Room, which are, I'm sorry, one of those awful rooms upstairs, those that have where they shove all the communists when they're done with them up there. Her workshop is 2012, Manifestation, Activation, and Transformation of Self, a Pleiadian perspective, which I'm sure is very high and very cosmic. So there she is. Our next gentleman up, who has lots and lots to say, is a fantastic philosopher, a best-selling author, an expert on 2012, the Mayan calendar. He is well-traveled. He's been on many television programs and has been featured at I can't imagine how many expos. You've done quite a few expos all across the country just in the last couple of years, hasn't he?
I don't know, a couple. Green Fest.
Okay, all right. Well, the fantastically erudite Daniel Pinchbeck, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey everybody, is this working? Yeah, I apologize if anybody came to this workshop. I was supposed to give on Friday. There was miscommunication, and I didn't show up. I was home hanging out with my daughter, so I didn't know that. I didn't know the time and everything. I wrote 2 books, Breaking Open the Head and 2012, The Return of Quetzalcoatl. The first book was about psychedelic drugs and shamanism. I went to different tribal cultures, including in West Africa. I visited the Bwiti in Gabon, working with a substance called iboga. I worked with ayahuasca down in the Amazon. And people here have heard of ayahuasca?
Yeah.
It's a drink made of 2 plants from the rainforest. Visited the Mazatec Indians in Mexico who work with mushrooms. Anyway, my investigation in that book kind of led me out of the secular materialist sort of framework that I've been born into accepting kind of some of the psychic dimensions of reality and the whole shamanic concepts and so on. And also led me to become kind of concerned about how we in the West had kind of become locked into rationalism, a very limited kind of scope of understanding of the nature of reality. and that these other cultures might actually have wisdom that we lacked, and then discovered that a lot of these cultures, have an understanding of the time that we're in now as one of intense change and transformation. So that led me to a second book, 2012, The Pyramid, Quetzalcoatl, where I continued my investigation of indigenous cultures, these prophecies, and tried to kind of look at this stuff in relationship to our modern Western, thought system, looking at thinkers like Carl Jung and Rudolf Steiner and Nietzsche and Heidegger and stuff like that. And, I do think that this is a time of intense transformation. I do think that if we were going to be wise and forward-looking, we would probably start preparing, in all sorts of practical ways for waves of transformation that are going to be, coming along. I'm not particularly good at it myself. I grew up in the city. I don't grow any broccoli on my windowsill or anything. But I think that, if we were to look at the situation, sort of with as much perspective as possible, it probably would be time for people to, begin to grow their own food and prepare for how things might shift, develop off-the-grid systems and so on. I think that this country is going to be one of the sort of crux points of this global transformation process. And at the moment we had this this economic meltdown, which was then solved by creating all this imaginary money that the Federal Reserve just staged. It's a giant anaconda squeeze, which is taking money from poor middle class people and shifting it to a smaller class at the top. And I don't know what that next wave of economic collapse might look like, but it seems, if you look a lot of different thinkers, that's very likely that it's going to happen. Since writing 2012, obviously the question that I got all the time was, what do I do? What do we do? And at first I really didn't have an answer, but I've been trying to develop a set of answers. I have some web projects. I gave out a card for Reality Sandwich, which is a web magazine. Then also we have a social network called Evolver.net, and we've started through Evolver a program of local communities called regionals, Evolver Regionals. We have about 30 of them in the U.S. and abroad, where people are coming together every month to have face-to-face meetings around certain themes, whether it's food or energy or shamanism, with the idea of just building local communities that are around alternative ideas, alternative values, which then could even become a kind of a social and political force or a movement that we're calling the Evolver Social Movement. That for me was the best way I could think of to kind of contribute to this transformation process in a positive way. I don't think anybody can say exactly what's going to happen in 2012. I wouldn't trust anybody who did say such a thing. We don't have any clear indication from the Mayans. They were pointing towards, according to John Major Jenkins' work, this astrological alignment where the winter solstice sun rises at the dark rim at the center of the Milky Way. According to our science, there's no direct reason why that would have an influence on the Earth. It's just it's an astrological. It's like an object. It's something that happens because of our viewpoint on the galaxy. There's almost like this optical alignment. However, it does seem that changes are happening that correlate, with this prophetic time scale. So that I think is a very numinous thing to kind of ponder on. And I'm interested in. There's a Russian scientist, Dmitriev, who believes that the whole solar system is now going through a transition to a higher energy state. And so we're seeing changes on a lot of the outer planets. We're also seeing changes on the sun. The NASA has looked at the heliosphere, which has decreased in strength like 25% in the last decade. We don't know why. And there are a lot of legitimate scientists who are, and even I think National Academy of Sciences has issued like papers around it, who are concerned that 2012 being the solar maximum, considering what's happened with the electromagnetic field of the Earth becoming weaker, and a lot of plasma being kind of gravitating to the poles here, there could potentially be an event which is called the Carrington event, I think, or Carrington effect, which would be like a large solar flare that would temporarily knock out the power grid. But unless there were safeguards in place for that, which there aren't at this point, it could be could last for a few weeks to a few months. Do I know that's going to happen? No. You know, is it a probability? According to legitimate science, it is a probability. You know, so if we really if we were dedicated to surviving this transition in a healthy way, we would probably figure out how we can protect ourselves by creating communities where we could get off the grid, grow food, develop alternative systems of exchange in case the monetary system becomes untenable, and at the same time, continue to devote ourselves to, esoteric self-development, shamanic practice, yoga, all these things that make you more flexible internally, more able to deal with intense changes as they happen, kind of happier about it.
Do you see that as where we're heading, Daniel?
What's that?
Right now, do you see that as where we're heading?
That being
what you just said about us moving towards yoga and more independence and more personal independence?
Yeah, I mean, I do think so. I mean, I feel there is a wave of consciousness change that's happening, and it's kind of it's reflected by the internet a little bit. I mean, it's like we're speeding up our ability to process information and understand new things and make changes in our lives. And that's also reflected in kind of the globalization of a lot of these esoteric practices. Whether it's Sufism or.
Let me ask you one question to kind of wrap up. Where do you see? I know you've been kind of sort of a critic of things going on with 2012. Where do you think the rubber meets the road in 2012? What do you think? What do you think are the myths? Just a brief thought on what do you think the myths being propagated about 2012? About the whole time change and things going on?
Good question.
If you want to think about it, we can get back to it later.
Yeah, I just think we have to really the way I see the shift in consciousness we're trying to make is we're trying to integrate scientific, rational, skeptical empiricism with the intuitive and shamanic and mystical kind of understanding.
Right.
And that's a really tough process, and we keep kind of veering to one way or veering to the other. Okay. I mean, in terms of the actual evidence, I think what I said is basically what you can say. There's a probability that that this magnetic shift could happen or whatever, or this solar flare. But there's more things that I think are evidence-based, like 25% of all species on the Earth will be extinct at current rates unless we change our environmental practices as a species. The oceans are 90% fished out of large fish. I mean, these are like hard limits. Climate change is accelerating. Obviously, earthquakes are intensifying and so on. So it's clear that we're in a crucible where we have to change our behavior as a species in a really short period of time, which involves people individually and then collectively taking responsibility for the whole situation, right. and then making those changes that we all kind of know need to be made.
Okay, there we go. And do you have a lecture or workshop today?
I had one on Friday that I didn't make. So okay. I'm sorry. If anybody really needs to workshop me or whatever, just email me and we'll work something out.
There you go. Daniel Pitchback, ladies and gentlemen. And all I can tell you is Daniel throws really fun parties. Bring your glitter and your angel wings and all that. All right, our next guest has been called the most influential seer in the Commonwealth. She's a master astrologer and psychic from the Commonwealth with extensive counseling and teaching experience in the fields of psychic development, psychology, astrology, and metaphysics. She holds a master's degree in counseling, recently hosted her own TV series on psychic phenomena. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Susan Hughes.
Good morning. I think it is...
Are we talking about New Zealand now? Are you from New Zealand, the Commonwealth?
No, the Commonwealth of Virginia, actually. Oh! Just a sweet little southern girl.
Virginia?
But I have also...
if you're a Muslim and you die and go to heaven, you get 72 Virginians. Didn't you know that?
Oh, my God.
Poor Jeff. Very poor. What I think is so important during this time is to understand that this is a shift in consciousness is what we're going through. And as more chaos happens around us, the more we need to be centered. Because everyone here probably really loves incarnating during times of great shift because it's exciting. And I really liked what Wendy said about the dark and the light, because we have to integrate the two. We have to own the shadow, plus we have to own the light. You know, the light does not fight with the dark. The dark does struggle with the light. Okay? So I hear a lot about positive thinking. Absolutely. Positive thinking, positive speech, very, very important. But I think often there's a fine line between positive thinking and denial. Okay? So I have studied extensively. I am a member of a mystery school for 20 years now. I've also studied with the Mayan and the Yucatan, and I have a nonprofit organization called the Baby Girl Project, which funds the resources to build schools for the Maasai and the Kipsigi children in Kenya. And my time with the Maasai, which is a fascinating culture, has taught me so much about the respect for community, the respect for the earth, the connection for the earth, the ability to function on limited resources. And that as a whole in our Western culture is something we've very much gotten away from, but something we have to tune to again. I'm also the author of a soon-to-be-published book called I Was a Chicken in a Past Life. And that could mean many different things, but it has
Must
to...
be tough when a chicken is your totem.
It has to do with the abuse of animals in our current food chain and in our current in the current food supply, particularly in the Western world. And I think that is extremely critical during this shift. Understand that on the summer solstice of just last year, there were very, very special children born who are going to shift the state of the food chain on this planet. And it's starting with just their vibration. So I am a huge advocate of that, to understand respect for the creatures, because it's gotten way out of control in this culture. And it's destroying, it's causing great suffering, great fear, and that is being transmuted into our own consciousness if we ingest that type of fear from these creatures who are so abused right now in our food culture. So that is what my book is all about. I am an astrologer, and I find it absolutely fascinating what is happening and aligning astrologically during this time, particularly in regards to the economic system, and particularly in regards to the consciousness in general, because it all begins with us as individuals. We are the nation, and we are this world. And right now, the whole universe is looking to planet Earth, because they're saying, what is planet Earth going to do? And no one really knows. But it's up to us to make that shift, as individuals and as a collective. Thank you.
Susan Hughes. Now, Pierre, do you have a workshop today, by any chance, or a lecture or something?
No, a workshop was yesterday.
Oh, okay, I'm so sorry. So I'm just going to let him introduce himself. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pierre Dubois.
Good morning, everyone. Just a little bit of background. I'm an Ascension, Starseed Ascension teacher. I have been teaching Ascension techniques and technology for...
Hold the mic up just a little bit, Pierre.
Just for several number of years. This is my first time at the Expo, and I've had a wonderful experience. Thank you for making me feel very warm and cuddly. I just wanted to say...
They're nice. Aren't these the nicest New Yorkers you've ever met?
That's absolutely the best. Absolutely the best.
I just ask them for directions. They won't even take your wallet. I
just wanted to pick up on something that Suzanne was just saying just now, which is the idea and the concept that the entire universe is really looking at us. 2 days in preparation for my presentation yesterday, which was on 2012 and the role of the 144,000, I received a communication from this collective I didn't even know existed, called the Galactic Region Council. And who they are and what their purpose is in terms of this 2012 clock. You know, the idea and the concept that is promoted out there, it's either the two extreme. It's going to be Archangel Gabriel coming with the trumpet and the magic carpet, golden age. Or on the other hand, complete catastrophe and disaster, doomsday. What this being came and told me is that what is this alignment with the center of a galaxy is about? It's about them looking at us. What they're doing is that they're going to do an evaluation. It's just a question of just examining, not just human beings, but examining the entire planet, the entire biosphere, as a living thing, and examining whether the threshold that we're supposed to really have met were achieved. And whatever adjustments needs to be made beyond that point will be determined. So it is not coming from a place of judgment. It's just observation without any judgments. They're just going to evaluate. And their perception, further they said to us, and I like what you said about species, us as a species, stepping up and changing at an accelerated pace. Their biggest issue with us, as being the dominant species on the planet, as being the beings who were supposed to be the stewards and the guardian and the co-creator with Gaia, to help all life form to achieve their ultimate potential, is that we have done a poor job. And the idea and their concept is that the biggest lesson they want us to understand is the fact that we need to understand the concept of equal exchange. If you take this a cup of water and you want to transform it into gas, the only way to do this is to apply heat, energy. When the amount of energy and heat that you apply will equal the volume of gas that you get. That's equal exchange. It's the law in the entire universe. We have been running around trying to get energy for free about everything. Whether it's the monetary system, whether, by creating fake money, the concept of buying low and selling high, all of that is not sustainable. You need to figure out, we as a species need to figure out a way to create sustainable living in all aspects of our lives. Whether it is with food supply, whether it is emotionally, psychologically, everything has to be equal exchange. You are not to interfere with anybody else's energy system or energy grid without having permission. Most of us walk around and particularly in family dynamics, we think we know how everybody else in the world should behave. If everybody else did what I want them to do, the world would be great. The point is that you don't know this. You need to ask for permission. And that's the concept that they're trying to promote. And they said further to me that the only way that you will be allowed to sit at our table at the Galactic Council level is for us to learn this lesson. The other option is that all species will begin to go extinct. What they said is that all of us are trying to save Gaia. They said to me, no, Gaia will live. It is us that are going extinct. We are making this place completely hostile to our own existence.
So you're saying people are going to be using us for oil pretty soon?
Exactly. So that's the idea and the concept.
Just remember, the dinosaurs are in your car.
So it's a question of us really understanding this huge lesson that's taking place. I personally don't think 2012 is going to be a drop-dead date for some catastrophe to happen. I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be an evaluation. There's certainly a shift of consciousness that's already leading to 2012. I think the change and the transformation, if we pass this test, as a species, is in the process. I think it's going to be a starting line. It's not an end goal. It's not an end time. It's just a starting point. Thank you.
Very well. And our next wondrous guest on the panel, who probably needs no introduction, she is She has her own radio show. She's been on television. She's had a TV series all about psychic detectives. She's been a natural intuitive and psychic since she was very, very young. She comes from a family of psychics. Her mother was also a very famous intuitive and very famous psychic. She is a New York City girl, and just like all successful New York City girls, she made a bunch of money, got the hell out of New York, and went to Florida. So, and so, ladies and gentlemen, with the she will stun, she will amaze. She is the El Predicto of Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, Jill Dane, right here. Jill Dane.
Okay, thank you. I love New York. First, I want to say there's so much fear out there, and I've been saying this for years. I was on radio 5 years ago, and everybody was saying to me, Jill, what is this with 2012? And I said, it's going to be the same day as 2000. Do you remember back in 2000? Do you remember what happened where in 1999 everybody was worried the world was going to end? Do you remember that? And the electronics and everything, and all the people were worried that their banks, you're not going to have money, and there was going to be no light. And
I still think the people in Australia should have shut the lights off for just a second, going, gotcha, right?
Well, the next day, it was a sunny day. Nothing happened, right? So when I went on radio, and this was when it first started coming out, I said, well, I guess the Mayans ran out of ink that day. That's why 2012 stopped. Okay? In my eyes. First of all, I like to say a lot of good things will start to happen by 2012 because my predictions about autism, cures for autism, is already in the works. So by 2012, there's going to be a lot of cures for AIDS, autism. You know, you can start seeing cures. Another wonderful prediction that good things about to start to happen for 2012 is that there's going to be manufacturers in the U.S. instead of having to deal with China. Michigan, Ohio, get ready. So if you know anyone over there, more jobs, you know, are going to start to happen. You know, when you fall and you go all the way down, how much down can you go, right? So then what happens? You start rising. Remember that. So with the stock market, I remember when I predicted that it was going to go down by July. We went down by July. Now, by 2012, where's our stock market? It's going up, right? Where's our property values? It's going up. The health care plan. I remember when I was here a year ago and I predicted it in my lectures and everyone booed me on that one, right? And they say it's never going to happen. Well, it happened. But the good thing about this health care plan is called amendments. And the senators will not allow the state, any of those people, to get away with anything. There's going to be amendments. So in the long run, it will help us and help our children growing up. So if you could sit there and say, what's going to happen in 2012? Well, we'll all be sitting here at 2012. And you're going to say, Jill said everything started to rise, correct? And you're going to see, it's called fear. And I don't like when there's fear in people's minds when nothing's going to really happen, disastrous, or the world's going to end. The world is not going to end. The world is going to rise. With this economy, the economy's going to lift. And the one good, you know, I don't like what happened with the economy, but it brought a lot of people closer together, spending your money wiser, and you're going to start to see all the people that lost their jobs are going to get rehired, and there's going to be enough jobs out there. You're going to see how people are going to start getting jobs. There are people on the banks will start getting funding, and you're going to see a big change by 2012. And it's even going to start with next year, if I could say. So I want everyone to smile. You know, nothing's always perfect in life, okay? And we all go through stages, 1 year good, 1 year bad. But by 2012, we'll be sitting here, and you're going to be saying, everything's going the right way. You could pick up the Globe every week. My Horoscopes are in there every week, and we have an upcoming TV show. Thank you.
Okay, now when I point at you, I want you to say no. Okay, ready? No. Okay, when I point at you, I want you to say no. Ready? No. Okay, ready? Remember that. Now, I didn't give this man the introduction that he deserved yesterday. So now I need to do it, my brothers and sisters. It is Palm Sunday. It is when our Lord went in through the east gate of Jerusalem on a donkey, coming in peace to the people of Israel and the people of Jerusalem. I'm not saying he's that donkey, but ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, our brother in spirit, our friend of the Holy Spirit. This man is so big. He's not only been on Oprah, he's been on Oprah, baby. I can tell you, he is a spiritual superstar, ladies and gentlemen. He is the dean of the University of Spiritual Diversity. He is the Ayatollah of angelic rock and roller. He is the Clarence Clements to my Bruce Springsteen. He is the earthquaking, booty shaking, heart breaking, baby making, cake baking. I tell you, do I need to say his name? No. Do I need to say his name? No. Do I need to say his name? No. But I do anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Cooper. That's the introduction you deserve right there.
Two colors. Brown and red make purple. That's the color of my face. My God, I don't even know if I can stand up after that. Jeez. Oh, thank you so much, Sean. He kissed the royal hand. I shall not wash it for 3 days. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad to be here with you today. You know, one of the most wonderful parts of the year is coming to New York. I mean, I love my LAers, the people from Los Angeles. I mean, Sean will tell you, they come out in troves of thousands to come see me.
That's right.
But, of course, we know we come out in thousands to see Sean in New York. Let's put your hands together and clap for him.
I don't say praise y'all, but thank you.
Well, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about that I want to share with you concerning prophecies. I am not a scientist. I don't watch the stars and all different types and make mathematical quantum formulas. But one thing I do, and I do quite well, and that's read the signs and omens. And so if there was anyone who was able to read signs and omens perfectly, that's me. So I want to talk about one of the things that 2012 that will come to pass. Finally, there's some good news for people who have cancer. There has been cures for cancer for the last 10 years that have not been placed on the market. And the reason why is because why? They need your money. Oh, you're not hearing me. The reason why the cures for cancer is not available is because there are lots of money that you pay when you get cancer. And then you're cutting out 1,000 people who actually get paid for you when you get a diagnosis of cancer. Oh, you are looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm telling you, if you're very rich, you have the cure. You can get the cure for cancer. If you're very rich, you can get it. I know for a fact what I'm talking about because I work with billionaire clients who had cancer and got the cure. So, what does that leave you? Well, finally, in 2012, cures for cancer are going to be released. Put your hands together and let's clap for that. We'll see if I'm a prophesier or a prophet liar. There shall be cures of cancer. Now, not all the cures shall be released, but that is going to be the tip of the iceberg where they're going to start. And believe me, they have to start someplace. About time they start someplace. Now, also in 2012, I agree with my girl Jill. Now, we don't always agree together in prophecy or predictions, but I agree with her. And I say in 2012, there's not going to be any catastrophes. But this 2012 is an important time in the evolutionary state of humankind. humankind will now evolve to the next level of superiority. And that is that they shall now, those of you who are seeking and walking on your path, shall become more telepathic. Those of you who are walking on your path, your healing energy shall go to the next stage where you can see it working. Those of you who are walking on your path shall not only increase telepathic skills and healing skills, but your manifestation skills shall be increased. That means when you really speak your word, something really will happen. The spoken word of manifestation. The evolutionary energy shall increase the memory and the brain usage. So 2012 brings forth a ringing of the telephone.
It's called the sign.
Look, both of them have to check the phone. No one knows who it is.
It's heaven, and it's for you, James.
Oh, operator information. I got God on the line. You like that? So, what was I? Oh, yeah. So we want to talk about 2012 and the prophecies. There are a lot of wonderful prophecies that are coming forth. A lot of wonderful things that will be happening. I have also stated prior that there will be extraterrestrial communication and contact. Not so just the government will know. Finally, people in America will actually start reading First Contact Made. First Contact Made. So there will be contact made. And people will be starting to go forward and knowing that the proof of life on other planets are finally going to set in. And there's going to be evidence coming forth during that period of time. The other thing that's very important that you need to know are the signs and the wonders of the earth. Why are there so many earthquakes happening? Why are there so many tsunamis happening? It was funny because I did something on my worldwide broadcast, because I broadcast on 1,100 different radio and television networks too. I write feature stories for the last 20 years. And I did a broadcast, said that San Diego was going to have a tsunami. And they said, San Diego's going to have a tsunami? I said, but it's going to be so light, it's not going to destroy any property. But a year prior, I said, I went down to Santiago, Chile, and I did a television program and said, this place is going to have a major earthquake and tsunami. So, 1 year passed, and I turned on the news and they said Chile just had an earthquake. And then it said San Diego had a mild tsunami. The waves were 6 foot and 8 foot coming to the coast, remember?
Yeah.
And a mild tsunami. So my editor called me up and said, how did you do that? And I turned to Sean while he was filming me up in LA and I said, because I am the QUEST Cataract. Put your hands together, let's clap. I turn it back over to Sean, but I want to say, the last thing I want to say is that we must watch out for the signs and wonders. You can always tell a true gifted person. You know, I follow my girl Jill's prophecies and predictions. I mean, it's like 1, 2, 3. And it's the same with mine. If you really follow my predictions, you will see 1, 2, 3. You know, we might be a little bit strange and we might be a little bit flamboyant here or there. But I'm telling you, when we open our mouths and we predict, you can take it to the bank. I'm done.
Amen. Robert James Catering. I live in a little coastal town called Hermosa Beach, and last fall I opened the curtains to my window and I'm looking out on the street, and the city had one of the cherry pickers up, and they were actually putting a sign right out my window. I'm sitting here looking at the street light. There's kind of a divider that runs in the middle of the street, and I'm looking at the street light, and the guys in the cherry pickers, the city workers, are putting up a sign that said tsunami evacuation route right in front of my house. And 3 weeks later, was the Samoan earthquake, actually, that then created a tsunami in Southern California. It was it's interesting because the tsunami that was created was only 9 inches high, and so they had signs all up and down the beach, no midgets, which I thought was really unfair. So they love coming to my beach and jumping down because they're so cute. So okay, all right. The reason the panel is here is for you folks. I mean, this is for me, this is one of the kind of crown jewels of the Strange Universe panel because it's a strange universe and we just work here. It was named after a TV show that I was one of the original creator producers on in the 90s and a radio program that I had nationally for a couple of years of Strange Universe with Sean David Morton. So do you have questions for the panel? And once again, the topic being ancient prophecies, modern predictions. So there's a very bold, nice lady in the back. Yes, ma'am? And I'll repeat your question. I'm not being obnoxious. I'm just doing it for the tape and for the QUEST.TV cameras. By the way, just one other thing. Our friends at QUEST.TV, www.QUEST.TV, it's not .com or anything else, but just QUEST.TV. You can actually download all of these panels on QUEST.TV. How far? I'll ask one of the QUEST.TV guys, ask the camera guy here. Do you guys know how far back your panels go? Like 3 years or whatever?
I think 3-4 years.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years or so. These guys are fantastic guys. You guys are from England, right? England and New Zealand and Australia?
2 from England, 1 from America.
2 from England, 1 from America. But the QUEST.TV guys have been doing fantastic things with the NEWLIFE Expo. You can download speakers there, I think, for a very minimal fee. I think it's $500-600, I think, isn't it? But you can download all the panels, the Strange Universe panels, the vibrational healing panels. I think they've actually got a Quest.TV XXX, which is the sexual panel, I think, isn't it? That they did on Friday where everybody gets on the table and goes, I'll have what they're having. Okay, yes, the lady in the back, yes.
What should we do with any monies that we may have in the bank or CODs or anything? Should it be something additional?
Okay, we have a financial question. Imagine that coming from a New York crowd. A financial question. What should we do with any monies that we have in the bank right now? Let me make a quick suggestion, but let me open this up to the panel. Again, I've been saying for a couple of years that the dollar's in a lot of trouble. I said it back in 2006. Let me just give you a couple of kind of interesting ways to do this. Most banks will actually have foreign currency accounts, and you can actually keep and I think the Canadian dollar is actually going to be very strong because I see the price of oil beginning to skyrocket after May. We're going to have a little bust up with the Iranians here pretty soon. It's all in the plannings and in the works. We're shipping Aegean-class cruisers into the Persian Gulf. They've canceled a major economic summit in Madrid the last 2 weeks of May. And they're looking for some kind of Missiles of October international incident to actually give Obama some heft internationally. He doesn't really have a lot of respect around the world. So they're trying to find something where he can kind of face down the Iranians and all that. Also, most foreign embassies, actually U.S. foreign embassies, have been told to have 2 years' worth of Swiss francs on hand. The Swiss francs actually are still slightly, it's only like 5% or something, but they are still backed by gold. The bottom line is I would obviously not be in dollars. You also have the Chinese sitting out there with about $2 trillion worth of American toilet paper sort of waiting for a fire sale. I mean, there's a lot of money out there where they're waiting for a bankruptcy to come sometime in the summer or early fall, where they'll come in and buy up quite a few things. The stock market's still going to be is going to be excellent if you're looking at blue chips. You'll see the first quarter numbers come out. I'll talk about all this in my lecture, my workshop today. First quarter numbers will come out, and they'll be very good, and they'll say, oh, it's all great, and the stock market will go over 11,000, which is something I predicted back in December, and that you'll see at that time the government in Washington will start to release a whole bunch of IPOs. They've been stopping new businesses from actually going into production. The geniuses of the SEC in Washington have actually withheld the releasing of IPOs, stopping literally billions of dollars coming into the economy because they want to not dilute the market to make the first quarter numbers look better so they can all tell you, oh, look, Obama's thing is working and all that. So, the stock market's still going to be relatively good. Gold is not that great because it's pretty much petered out at 1,100. Silver is still good. My ultimate advice in the stock market is find a company that you like. Find a company that services something that you believe in. And because money is a form of love, it's a form of energy, so you're putting your love and your energy towards that, invest in the things that you believe in. But I would not be in the dollar. I would find a way to actually have your savings in some kind of foreign currency. Canadian, British pound sterling, no. U.S. dollar, no. Euro, actually still pretty strong and pretty safe. I don't know if anybody else has any other comments about that.
Jill.
I'm just saying, keep your money where it is.
There we go. Okay.
And there's also, I got to throw this prediction out because you're going to hear this. There's going to be a men's birth control.
There's been a men's birth control for the last 2 years. Oh, yes,
Not a real birth control.
I used to have this really funny hat that acted as a birth control device because I put it on and women would go, "No way." The guy that'll make $1 billion, all this stuff to help you get an erection and keep an erection. The guy that'll make $1 billion is the guy that comes up with the pill that helps you give it away. So there you go. Yes, ma'am. You had a question.
Where do you see the U.S. and the Chinese relationship in 2012?
You know, I was going to say something about Russia and China, but I have to be honest with you. My telephone is tapped. So every time, no, really it is. And it just started being tapped again within the last 6 months. So, you know, I'm going to tell you something. When you give accurate predictions about government sources, you become a target. And that is why that a lot of us are not doing those predictions anymore. I mean, I'm tired of getting stripped down to the bare underwear, going through the airport, and going up with the rubber glove to see.
I have to pay extra for that. What's up?
I'm saying,
That's extra $50.
You know what? One thing is to not give accurate information about government resources. And the other is to give accurate information and then get penalized for doing it. So we have realized collectively, those of us who have been doing it, to calm it down a lot so we can come out the limelight. Dr. Capers doesn't want to come out of his house one day and catch a bullet and be dead. And see, you're laughing. I belong to a society, a psychic sensitive society in Los Angeles, and every last one is dead but 2 of us. 2 of us. We are the only 2 that's still alive. All of a sudden, they were doing government stuff and they're dead. So say what you want. I ain't saying nothing about that.
Let me throw this to Wendy on the end. Wendy, do you have is there a Pleiadian perspective maybe on global relations, or I mean, there's got to be a higher perspective here on, you know, the troubles between the United States and China and everything else around the world.
Well, they're very, when it comes to predictions, they're very clear that they don't like to give them. And this is why. Because when they give a prediction, our focus goes to it. And it keeps us from creating different possible realities. So if they don't give them, we're open to creating something different, perhaps choosing a lighter perspective. So they also talk a lot about there being multiple versions of reality going on at the same time. So it's not so much having to change the world that is outside of you, but changing yourself and aligning yourself with a different version of reality. And changing the kind of world that you'd like to have by working with your community, by working with yourself. It's really important that you understand the holographic nature of reality.
See you, sister.
Right on.
I'll say it again. It's really important that you
Palm
understand the
Sunday, come on down
holographic
to
nature.
Revolution.
Because as you make a change within yourself, you add to making a change to the whole. And it doesn't take a majority of us in order to make a change to the whole. And it's really important that we understand that. We can never change the outside world until we start making changes within ourselves and within our own lives. So you got to start there. Now, as far as the predictions and what's possible, they say if they look at it right now and there's a 98% chance of something happening, because of the energy that we are being bathed in as we're moving through this sector of space, we're being bathed in a very high vibrational energy. If you want to think of it like a track, a start and a finish line, it's a dense band of very high energy to allow us to integrate, to kind of absorb everything that we've learned through the cycle so we can start the next cycle. While we're being bathed in this, we have a lot of growth that happens. So we're able to take bigger risks. We're able to make choices that are bigger leaps of faith that we may not have been able to make 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So for that choice that had a 90% probability or 98% probability of happening before, and then we've got one that's a tiny one with 2%, the chances of our taking that 2% leap of faith right now are much higher because of this energy that we're bathed in. So their predictions and their ability to tell us what's going to happen is very, very hard for them because we have all these major choices that are happening in a short amount of time, and they're not certain which version we're going to choose. So it's really important that you focus on yourself, not so much what's going on outside. Look and see how you're getting triggered by what you're hearing is going on or the potentials of going on. That's what you've got to look at. Are you fearful about what's happening to your money or what can happen? Look at the fear. So as you start to release some of this fear and the judgment you have around it, you will create a different version of reality for yourself. You're not going to create a big drama around money. It may be going on with everybody else around you, but in your life, it's pretty smooth. The bank may collapse, but you've got your money taken care of. You got to do what feels right for you, that makes you feel comfortable. If that means taking all your money out, then do that. If it means leaving it there, not worrying about it, do that. You got to do what makes you feel comfortable and address your fears. Look and see how you as an individual are getting activated.
There you go. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you very much. So I guess the energy you're talking about that we're moving through is, would that be what some people would call the photon belt,
Yes.
I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. Because the next area of space is going to be called the futon belt, where we all get hit upside the head with Japanese pillows, which is not so much fun. Susan, do you have any comments on the global situation from a psychic perspective? I'm just trying to spread the conversation out, and I know you're very southern and kind of shy, so y'all.
Particularly with what is happening this summer astrologically, there's a very, very important alignment happening.
Are you
And
talking about the Cardinal Cross in
the
July?
Cardinal Cross,
Yeah, right.
well, June 24th, I think.
July
is-
26th.
Well, June 24th is a lunar eclipse.
Yes.
Okay. And that is going to activate a cardinal cross that involves a full moon in Capricorn, which eclipses the planet Pluto. Okay? Pluto brings transformation. It also brings a breakdown of the system as far as Capricorn. Political structures, government structures, banking systems. Okay? So that's very shaky right now. But understand, I agree, we don't know. It depends on what we choose as a consciousness. As far as the government relations, too, Jupiter and Uranus are moving into Aries and will align right there. Aries is the sign of war. Okay? But Jupiter and Uranus together, it can bring destruction, it can bring an acceleration of war, of conflict among nations, or it can bring a higher evolution and an ability to unique ways to handle the socioeconomic conditions. Saturn being in Libra, activating, is also dealing with the way we relate to others and taking responsibility for the way we relate to other cultures and other countries. And it happening in Cancer, which is the sign of the mother, which is the sign of the ability to nurture each other, each culture. Yes, it's a critical point, and it's very, very crucial, but we're all responsible for it. So I don't know which way it goes. I certainly hope that we become more responsible in the way we relate to other cultures, other nations, as a country, because it's also triggering the United States, big time in that configuration, the chart of the United States. And that's going to go on through the summer. So, as centered as you can be, as focused as you can be, and come into alignment as much as you can. You know, start with the self, and then go outward to your family, and then your community. And that's really, and take responsibility for your actions, your thoughts, and your words. That's basically what we can do during this time.
There we go. And actually, while you're standing up, hold on one second. Let me ask you an astrological question.
Okay.
You've had, if you're talking about, let me get a little esoteric on you guys here for a second. You're talking about Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion, really the big daddy, the Santa Claus of the universe, in your will. Now moving into Aries, which is very aggressive, very warlike. Wars for economic expansion, quite possibly. I think the real interesting key here is that you've had Uranus in Pisces for the last 7 years. Now, Uranus is the planet of sharp shocks, aggressive action, atomic energy, explosives. The atom, it was discovered around the same time, I'm not sure if this is true, around the same time as atomic energy and the atom bomb and whatever else. But it's
that was Pluto.
That was Pluto. I'm sorry, Pluto was 32. I was in 32, Percival. Okay, I'm sorry, so I got that confused. But I liken it to, you have the two fish of Pisces swimming in the subconscious mind, if you will, being shocked. It's almost like electrical shocks to water. And I liken it to the Joker just running loose in Gotham, messing with everybody, the cops, the heroes, the gangs, the government, whatever else. Now that Uranus is moving into Aries, which is far more aggressive, don't you think we've been in like a 7-year dream state in regards to Aries and in regards to Uranus? And now that it moves into Aries, that people are going to start waking up like really angry. I mean, these are all kind of like these are all planets that are like guns and knives and revolution and all the stuff that was happening around 1776 and the founding of the country is all reoccurring now.
Yeah. That's definitely playing out. So see, it can happen in a multitude of realities, and absolutely a revolution is occurring. And what you said about it being in Pisces, now understand too, what's happening, getting ready to come into Pisces, is Neptune and Chiron. Okay? It's leaving Aquarius, which is which has been this huge technological, push we've been dealing with. And now it's moving into Pisces. How I think that's going to play out, too, is people are going to start seeing the wound of how we've been deluded.
Right.
And how we've been, manipulated, particularly through advertising, particularly through many different facets to try to keep us drunk, which is Pisces, on the way reality is. And you put that with Jupiter and Uranus coming into Aries, at the critical points. Understand, this cardinal grand cross is happening at all the solstice and equinox points. You see? Right. So everything new. Now, when we saw this energy come into Capricorn, that happened in the early 1990s, late 80s. That was with the collapse of the Soviet Union, and all this stuff was going on, You're going to start to see all this happening again, and it's going to be interesting. Will it happen between nations? I hope not, because that could be catastrophic. Will it happen as people rising up and saying, wait a minute, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. I'm not necessarily going to believe everything I'm fed. I'm going to stay sovereign as an individual and make my own choices. And make choices for the greater good, the greater whole, which on a higher vibration, that is Jupiter and Uranus in the sign of Aries, the pioneer.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you. Susan Hughes, ladies and gentlemen. Just let me point out one interesting cycle and sort of interesting aspect of this. Afghanistan is called the graveyard of empires. It destroyed the British Empire, it destroyed the Greeks, it destroyed everybody that's pretty much invaded. I might also point out that the Russians, after they invaded Afghanistan, 9 years later, the Soviet Empire fell. Because Afghanistan is the last economic hope because there's so much heroin that's coming out of Afghanistan. So I think it's interesting that the United States invades Afghanistan in 2001. Here we are now 9 years later with an astrological chart that is a bankruptcy chart, the exact same astrological configurations that were occurring in the 1840s when you had Andrew Jackson breaking up Biddle and the Bank of the United States. But Andrew Jackson broke up the central bank, slashed taxes by 50%, and rode out the economic crisis. Come on, Jill, turn the phone off. All right, at least it's not the I'm a super freak ring.
It sounds like a
so there you go. So I just think it's interesting that the astrological conjunctions, and I think Susan will agree with me on this, that are occurring right now, happened in the 1840s, happened in the 1770s, and before that, the unique ones that are happening right now have not happened since approximately about 1300 to 1350 BC, which was the Hebrews escaping from Egypt. So I clearly think that possibly nothing's going to end in 2012, but things are going to get far more complicated in a lot of different ways. But I also see it from what the Great Pyramid says, that this is a great Exodus time and an Exodus period that as material civilization begins to collapse around us, that there's going to be a devotion to a new spiritual type of community that is going to look at money as more, rather than just collecting debt notes of Federal Reserve kind of illegal promissory notes, if you will, waking up every morning thinking, how much service can I be to others? How much love can I create in the world? How much can I do for other people? How much joy can I create? And that is what brings in the energy of abundance that we then translate into money in the physical world.
Obviously, you don't have to wait until 2012 to do that.
No,
obviously,
obviously,
doing it right
obviously,
now.
doing it right now.
I mean that seems to me like the thing that I would want to say, like, you know, it keeps coming up in my mind, is it's like, rather than thinking of anything projective that's going to happen or may happen or any way of defining through language, you know, system correspondences, it's actually all of us have agency at this point in time. And if we can, you know, reach an understanding of the situation as it's developing, you know, we can then activate our own agency and bring about this better world that we would like to see, you know, through how we use our time and energy and intelligence.
Did you have a comment, Pierre?
Yeah.
Take trying to spread the conversation.
I just wanted to say that in terms of as a spiritual teacher, one of the things that I keep trying to remind my student all the time is that fear of any kind brings separation and chaos. So if you fear for your money, if you're living in a constant state of what's going to happen, this is what you're going to create. Bottom line. Okay? What you are, all of you, are goddess and God incarnate. You can change anything that you want if you have the right intention. So instead of focusing on the emptiness and the vacuum and the separation that you're being fed through the media, I don't watch TV. Because all it is, it's a vehicle to transmit fear.
That's right.
Take a look, but it's true. Take a look at any news program and find me, and I'll pay you money for this, find me 10 minutes of positive news. You would think that the world is collapsing, okay? When in fact, if you look around you, you see acts of kindness and love happening all around.
Yeah, indeed. Amen.
Okay? So what I'm saying here, in terms of everything that's happening around you, focus on the positive and the outcome that you want to create. Focus and see the glass half full. And change one by one your behavior. Become the god and the goddess that you want to be. You need to live your life. What I do at the end of the day, and I teach this to my students, I write in my journal a very quick outline of what happened during the day. And at the end of the day, after I describe it, I ask myself, if God and Goddess was walking in my footstep today, would he or she have done the same thing? And if indeed it's not the case, where there is some part of what I did that did not match, I have adjustments that I have to make. And in terms of money and finance, and I know several people ask this, I can tell you one thing. Money is energy. It's flow. When you are in fear, what you're doing is that you're hoarding. Okay? Think of a pipe where you have a clog. You're hoarding. Okay? The idea and the concept is to create an ability, a way for flow to happen. The Galactic Masters told me something, you may choose to do it or not to do it, and I told my student, and they're all doing it. Take a dollar bill and look at the dollar bill that has the number 12 in it. Okay? Save $12 bill in your wallet with the number 12. And any subsequent number 12 that you find with a dollar, give it to someone else to create flow. Okay? And all my students are doing it. It will provide you immunity against this financial collapse. You may choose to do it or not. That's all I have to say.
There you go.
Thank you.
Pierre Dubois, there you are. See, now that's the guy that should be president of the United States, right there. Look at him. He's got all the qualifications. He's well-spoken. He's good-looking. He was born in a foreign country. There you go, right there. Right there. We got one last question. Yes, Miss Jewel, you had a question? Or you had a question? Yeah,
No, we were just talking about relating to Afghanistan, and I just got a Twitter text that Obama is in Afghanistan at this moment.
Oh, he's in Afghanistan right now. Isn't that funny? Huh. Okay, well, good. The price of heroin will go down. Isn't that great? So it's so for all you smackheads out there. All right, we've only got about 5 minutes left. So what I'm going to do here, I know we have a lot of questions, but let me do this. Let me start with Wendy on the panel. Give me 90 seconds if you can, okay? And I know that's it's kind of a time constraint because we got other people in this room right now. Let me also promote your workshop, please. Just let me know if you know when your workshop is. If not, I'll find it in here. Wendy, stand up for a second. On the spot, give me 90 seconds. Give me your best parting shot. What are these folks, what do you think, in your opinion, and from your higher knowledge and guidance, what do you think everybody in this room right now most needs to know? 90 seconds, go.
Hold joy. Fear and love cannot be housed in the same vehicle. So the more you experience joy, the more you're going to bring up your fear. If you understand that you create your own reality, you understand it's a game, you can observe reality as it's in front of you, what you're creating, it is showing you where you're vibrating. And you can make vibrational selections. You can make new choices. And it's not right or wrong choices. It's new vibrational selections. That takes the judgment out of it. You don't have to know about your past lives. You don't have to know about your future lives. You don't have to know what's coming. Look at what's going on in your own life, what's being reflected back to you, and decide whether you like it, you want to keep repeating that, or whether you want to make a new vibrational selection. The greatest change happens by changing yourself. And you have the ability to change yourself immediately. You don't have to wait 10 years. You don't have to go through hours and hours of meditation or exercises or rituals. You can do it with every breath that you take. You can make a new vibrational selection.
There you go. Wendy Kennedy, there she is. Great.
The workshop today is at 3 p.m. Right now it's in the Village Room, but it may be moved. So.
Okay, all right, there you go. I highly suggest she's a fantastic speaker. There you go. Daniel, 90 seconds. What do these folks right now most need to know?
I don't know what they need to know.
Oh, okay. In your opinion. In your considered opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we're all in a learning process, and, we can see that things are changing. And I think, the cautions about fear are good. Personally, I don't think, you can reject fear because it's just going to come back and find some other way in. So I think it's more like recognizing that fear is like a natural response of your kind of emotional immune system in a way. Yes, it is. And there's a lot of reasons why we do feel fear in this culture. We have fear hammered on us. We have threats all the time. Anthrax, terrorism, all this stuff. So I think we need to go overcome the fear, but recognize that it's a natural part, not reject it. It's part of us. And I think that building community is very important right now. So looking at aspects of indigenous cultures that have been more sustaining on the earth, and I think that's some of the value of the Mayans and the Hopi and so on, is that they point towards a different path. And tribes like the Hopi actually have prophecies around us being the elder brother who at the end of the cycle come back to them no longer pretending that we have more knowledge or are better or can scientifically take them apart through anthropological things or whatever, but actually sharing knowledge with them in an open-hearted way, and then they'd be willing to give and receive. And so, I always feel kind of embarrassed when I'm on these panels because there's never any indigenous people up here to speak from that perspective. So once again, I acknowledge that everything we're talking about here, the framing of this panel comes from the indigenous people of this continent in South America and so on. And hopefully they're here with us in some kind of spirit, if not in body.
We got to wrap it up. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And I would be very suspicious of people with predictions, because I agree with what Wendy. Yeah, a lot of what Wendy had to say. I think that it is a holographic universe. I think we are projecting and substantiating our own reality. And we actually have the potential to be agents of transformation. I mean, now there's a lot of destruction projected on the year 2012. Well, we could take that and transmute that. And a friend of mine is developing an initiative he calls Peace 2012, which is to make that day a day of global peace meditation, synchronized around the world. And we actually have scientific evidence that, if everybody binds together and synchronizes their intentions and so on, you can make almost measurable changes. Something like the Princeton has this Global Consciousness Project has looked into that. So I mean, I think that we're getting more kind of deeper understanding of the psychic phenomena and our own psychic energies, and that's also part of the shift. Anyway, thank you very much for having this, giving me this time to speak. I suggest, I hope you check out realitysandwich.com. I have some more flyers here. And also check out evolver.net, and there's these Evolver regionals in New York and all around the country if you're interested in meeting with a group of like-minded people. Thanks.
He's got some fantastic books, Mr. Daniel Pickett. The gracious, the lovely, the very feminine Susan Hughes, y'all.
I think it's very important during these times, number one, to fine-tune your vessel. This is the Holy Grail. This is the Holy Temple. And this is really all we have right now, is our bodies and our consciousness, because it is the ark that will help us through these times. So anything you can do through diet, through nutrition, be very careful what you take into your body. Connect to the earth. Get your feet on the earth. You need to be grounded during these times. I know a lot of people want to be psychic and everything. That's important, Feel the pulse. Understand where to go, what to do if necessary. But you need to be grounded. You need to be very, very focused to get through this time. I do have a workshop at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, yeah. No, I'm sorry, a lecture at 4 o'clock and a workshop at 5 o'clock. I think the lecture is in the workshop is in Central Park.
Hold on, I got it.
Sure.
The lecture is in the Central Park room. You're absolutely right. And your workshop is
Soho.
Where is it?
Soho.
So in the Soho room. So there you go.
Thank you.
Susan Hughes, ladies and gentlemen. Bring us home, Mr. President.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say that at this time, we already know that because of the last earthquake that the Earth is actually spinning faster and time is going faster. So I wanted to mention to you the fact that we as light workers, as individuals who are trying to embody the energy of light and spirit, we really ought to be at this time really expanding ourselves in terms of understanding that we have a critical role to play. This is your opportunity to create transformation and change. Would love to talk to you about this in further detail. I don't have a workshop today, but I am in booth 216 on the second floor. I would welcome to converse with you. Thank you.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, you guys, come on, and wait. When Jill's talking, let me make sure I turn my cell phone on. Wait, hold on. Take all my calls here.
Is God calling me?
Yeah. Okay. Come on, we got like 1 minute. We got to wrap this up. We got people in this room at 11:30. So take it.
I want 5 minutes.
Go. You can't take
Okay.
it. You can't have that.
First, I want, fear. I agree with you with the media. There's some people that make predictions off the media or magazines, and they're not focused on their own predictions, if I could say. I've been predicting since I was 6 years old on radio, and my first major prediction started when I was 13 on the John Eastman show in Tampa. I was flown out there and I predicted the Muslim attack in Washington, D.C. to the date. And that's what put me in Ripley's Believe It or Not, the book Ghost, Witches, and ESP, and I'm in the ESP part. So, when you do make a prediction, you can always change, if I could say, your own predictions. You could change your own ways. When you sit there and you're with somebody that's not, let's say, healthy in your life, or if you're in a bank that you don't like, you go to another bank. But keep your money where it is. I want everyone to think positive. Don't go throwing your money all over the United States. Keep put. And, it's called fear. I had all these women, right? No, wait. I just want to get this because I had all these women in their 40s pregnant. And on a certain show, I can't mention, I don't want to get sued, but on a show, my phone was nonstop ringing and they're all worried because these doctors were on this show saying that at 40 years old, you can't give birth. You should not give birth. It's unhealthy. So all these women in their 40s were calling my office, hysterical crying, Jill, oh my God. And I said, change the dial. Don't watch the TV. They all gave birth to healthy children. 1 year, it's Desitin. 1 year, it's baby powder. Stop with the news. Use your mind, positive thinking, and get the fear out of your head. Thank you.
Lady Jill Day! Lady Jill Day, take it home. Come on,
Oh, wait, I'm
we gotta
speaking.
go.
I'm
We
speaking.
gotta go. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Jill is talking. 3 o'clock. What are you talking? 3 o'clock. She's 3 o'clock in the. Are you in Sutton as well?
I'm in here.
Right in here. In the Gramercy Park room. In this room at 3 o'clock. Okay, come on, Jill.
I just want to say the same thing to elaborate real quickly, that Jill is absolutely right. We have a lot of people who make predictions that are not very good at all. But I'm of the seventh child of the seventh child of the seventh child, 7 generations on the maternal side, that from Shea women. We're from the island of Maroon. And by the way, the island of Maroon was called the island of Maroon before it was called the island of Jamaica. And I am from the Maroon descent. And the power has been in our family for years. I was the one who prophesied about the bomb attack in the subway in New York City gas, that the CIA went on CNN and who did his dossier and said it was true, that they stopped it. So all you people saying we ain't predicting right, if we didn't prophesize about that attack, it could have happened. Put your hands together and clap. I am speaking today, and what time am I speaking?
1 o'clock in the Kips Bay room.
And I'm giving predictions, so if you want to come, I'm prophesizing and not prophet-lying. Thank you.
Let me just wrap this up by saying, kids, once again, we all know the media is your enemy. We all know to question everything out there. Heck, I think I'm going to take up smoking tomorrow. And all we know about 2012, if you've seen the movie, if you have a limousine and a Winnebago, you can outrun it. So, thanks for coming today. Thanks for being on the Strange Universe panel. It's a strange universe, and we just work here. Thank you very much.